Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this first session in the series of live sessions we'll be conducting on personal interview. Today, we'll be talking about how to succeed in personal interview. If you are a repeater who has been to SSB many times and you're not succeeding and you're not able to understand where you are going wrong in your personal interview, then this session will help you understand that to a great extent. And I'll request you to watch the subsequent sessions also so that you will be able to prepare for interview in a much better manner. And if you're a fresher, then also it will give you a very good direction regarding how you should start preparing for your personal interview. So this is the first session. And in this series of videos, in this series of live sessions, which I'll be taking, I'll be sharing with you my strategy, which has helped my students like Ramya Chitra to be amongst the top three in the merit list, even when in her written exam of AFCAT, she had got just around 2 to 3 more marks compared to what was passing score at that point of time. During her personal interview, the IO had grilled her a lot, and still he was not able to find any room to catch her neck. And that is when he had actually complimented her that she really knew a lot, that she was very well informed. Same was the case with Akansha. Even her written score was just around 3 marks more compared to passing, but she was also able to perform nicely in the interview. She also got commissioned. Ramya is also commissioned by God's grace and their hard work. And same was the case with other students like Manish Teotia as well as Kapil. Both of them were complimented by the IO that their level of information they had was really good. If you follow what I'll be teaching you in today's and the subsequent sessions on personal interview, trust me, it will take your level of preparation to another level altogether, and you will be able to shine nicely in your personal interview. Now, in today's session, we are going to discuss the first of the 8 main reasons why candidates fail in personal interview and how to overcome it. Okay. In my experience, I have seen there are 8 main reasons why candidates fail in their personal interview, and they don't even realize it that they are making those mistakes. So today we will discuss the first and the biggest mistake that candidates make in their personal interview and what you can do to overcome it. And for this purpose, I will even be, showing you clippings of actual interview recordings of my students, so that you will be able to understand how interviews are analyzed, how interviews, say something about you as a person. Of course, so there will be a deeper analysis, and I'll help you understand everything in detail in detail. So what is this reason that becomes the number one, the biggest reason that you don't get recommended? Of course, there are other reasons also, but what is the number one reason? The number one reason, in fact, happens to be lack of knowledge and understanding about our armed forces. Now, guys, those of you who are repeaters or who have been till conference at least once, I'm 100% sure you will immediately agree that you're asked questions like, why you want to become an officer? What do you know about Army or about Air Force or about Navy other than ranks and commands? Which unit you would like to join and why? Which are the last 5 acquisitions of our Army or Air Force or Navy? These are the most expected questions during the personal interview, and there is a very important reason why they ask you these questions. Guys, please understand what I'm going to explain now. It's very important. See, our armed forces have a very tough life. From outside, especially to civilians, it all looks like everything is pink and green. There are beautiful cantonments, everything looks very nice, and it feels like life is fun inside. On top of it, the image of our armed forces is related to adventure in a major way. Till few years ago, the ad which used to come on television regarding NDA, National Defense Academy, used to have that line, live life less ordinary. So it all looks like, inside our armed forces, life is just fun, full of adventure and full of enjoyment. And most of the candidates who go for SSB, especially civilians who go through NCC entry, they have this pink and green notion in mind that inside everything is very simple, very easy, very enjoyable. Now, guess what? That is not true. life inside our Army, Air Force, as well as Navy is very tough. Okay, tough in the sense the work environment, the conditions you work in. You have to at times be posted in altitude areas, at times in desert areas. On top of it, we are a poor country. We are not really able to provide a very luxurious kind of environment to our armed forces. So life is tough. On top of it, we have a huge officer shortage. A lot of times you will find in unit that there is up to 40% officer shortage. So one officer is doing the work of 3 or 4 officers. So it's a very back-breaking kind of work which you are required to do. If you appear for SSB as a person who is really not knowing about our army, then it just looks like you have either come out of fascination for our armed forces, or you have just come for a government job. And in both the cases, you are not really desirable. Let's understand why. First, if you are a fascinated youngster, you are very dangerous for our armed forces. Why? Because when you have that fascination for our armed forces and you go for interview with that thing in mind, the IO, the entire board knows that tomorrow, if you are commissioned, very quickly you will get disappointed, you will get frustrated. Why? Because you came in thinking that everything will be pink and green, and then suddenly you realize, oh my god, life is so tough inside army, I have to do so much work. And then immediately, your all dreams are shattered, and then you are frustrated and you just want to leave army and get out of it. The bigger problem with this is that you are stuck at least for 5 years, even if you are a short service commissioned officer. So you have to stay there, isn't it? And ask any commanding officer, any high ranking officer, this kind of a youngster who is frustrated, who is disappointed, who has got his dreams shattered, he becomes more or less a liability for the unit and for the organization, because he's very demotivated from inside. He's frustrated. And this kind of a person can never work efficiently. He's a very demotivated person. So that's why he's not needed. Second thing is, if you're just coming for a government job, just for a hike in salary, then also the probability is very high that you will not be a very motivated person. You will not be, giving your 100% to our armed forces. You're there just because you have a government job. Armed forces need a person who is highly motivated, who wants to join in spite of knowing that life is going to be very tough inside. That's why I always advise candidates, you talk in as much detail about our armed forces, especially about their day-to-day life, as you can. Okay, and I'll help you learn all of this. I'll share with you things which you probably were not knowing earlier, and that will really help you in your interview. So in our subsequent sessions also, you'll be gaining a lot of information. I'll just advise you to stay disciplined and join me here for live sessions, and you will learn a lot. I'll take your entire preparation to a different level altogether. I assure you that. So coming back to our discussion, lack of knowledge and understanding about our armed forces becomes a primary reason why you come across as a very undesirable candidate to the board members. Now, this is especially problematic if you're a serving candidate. Most of my students are serving candidates. Most of my students, in fact, 90% of the people I have trained for SSB are from Army or Air Force. They are the serving members of Army or Air Force. Now, the problem with them is, when they are asked, where were you posted earlier? Sir, I was posted at XYZ place. Okay, tell me which 5 units were there apart from your unit. And they either don't know or they don't remember. If they can somehow recall, and if they know, then they are asked, okay, tell me about this particular unit, tell me whatever you can about them, and then they don't know anything. What it shows is you're not really interested in your organization. Your organization has given you a life, it has given you identity, it has given you a means of livelihood, it has given you respect in society. You have an identity because you are a part of Army and part of Air Force, or whichever, your Navy, whichever out of the three you are a part of. Now, in spite of all this, if you're not interested in your organization, if you don't feel that healthy curiosity to know about the other units which are next to your unit, and you have spent 2 to 3 years, being next to them, and you still don't know anything about them, what does it say about you? You just come across as a person who is very dull from inside, who is not having that liveliness to learn, about things which are around him. General awareness is next to nothing, and healthy curiosity is just absent. So it becomes clear you have just come here for a hike in salary. You're not really interested in the organization, and hence you will not even be able to do, your best for the organization. So with serving candidates, this is a major problem. Another big problem with our serving candidates at times I have noticed is they don't have information about what is happening in their own unit or own arm. I'll give you an example of what I mean. It was around 2018, I think, when one serving member of the Air Force had come to me. His trade was propulsion. He was working on Sukhoi's engines. Okay, he was in one of the Sukhoi units. And when I had taken his interview and asked him about, tell me something about Sukhoi apart from the engine bit, he practically had no knowledge. And this is very common, very, very common scenario when you take interview of serving candidates. Very common. So he was just not knowing anything else about Sukhoi, in spite of having worked practically on that aircraft for number of years. So what does it say about you? That you're a very dull person from inside. You don't have any curiosity to even know about the very aircraft you are working on. He knew everything about the engine part of it, but nothing else. So that is another problem. For civilians, I've already explained, you don't need to come across as a fascinated candidate. You need to come across as a person who really knows that life is going to be very tough inside, but I know that and I am prepared for it. Then they might ask you that if you already know that life is so tough inside, why you want to join? They are liking the fact that you are aware of what life is like inside our armed forces, and you still want to join. Why? Because then the probability of you getting disappointed and you getting frustrated is very low or nil. So you will not be one of those liability kind of officers in the unit. So that is a very positive thing. But then they'll ask you, okay, why you want to join if life is so bad inside? Then you should give a very mature answer that, sir, in any job which gets you respect from society, which is a very respectable job, it has prestige attached to it, it comes with its own pressure, its own burden. You talk about anyone, you talk about Elon Musk, you talk about Sam Altman, who is running Chat GPT, you talk about people like Sundar Pichai. Do you think they sleep peacefully at night? No. They all have lot of pressures that they have to handle. So any job which is going to get you respect in society, which is going to give you an identity, status, a promising future, it will involve pressure, and life will be tough in that role. Okay, so if you answer like this, you will come across as a very, very mature youngster, and board would love it. So that is one very good thing. Now, let's start our study. Let's try and understand what mistake you make regarding this one area of interview, a very important area, I would say. Okay, one of the most important parts of your interview is this, and how you should rectify it. Okay, so let us watch interview clippings for better understanding. The first clipping is of around 3 minutes of my student Kanishk. Kanishk has been with, he has completed NCCC certificate. He has already been to SSB once before coming to me. And in fact, he had been to one big academy in Noida before coming to me. He is from our capital, Delhi, which has a huge cantonment. A lot of army units are there, Air Force units are there. And then see how his answer was when I had asked him questions on a similar line. Let's watch that clipping.
First of all, you tell me why you want to join army.
Sir, the first and foremost motivation for me, sir, my cousin brother who got martyred in 2019, Captain Kapil Kundu, he was from 15 Jakla. Sir, the first and foremost motivation is him, sir, that
Kundu,
I want to become.
he was your
Yes,
cousin.
yes, sir.
Okay, so your motivation behind wanting to join army is because your cousin died while serving.
Sir, I want to be like him, sir. Apart from that, sir, I've always dreamt of joining armed forces, sir, and also it gives us a adventurous opportunity to live life.
Which unit you would like to join and why?
Sir, 15 Jakla, sir. Because, sir, my brother was in that unit.
If you are not given an option to join 15 Jacklie, what will you do?
Sir, I will be happy to join any unit, sir.
Okay. Tell me whatever you can about 15 Jack Life.
Sir, 15 Jakla, it was raised in 1947. And sir, it has one Paramveer Chakra body, three Mahavir Chakra bodies. And sir, apart from that, sir, the most of the soldiers from 15 Jakla are hailed from Jammu Kashmir, Himachal, Punjab. And sir, the headquarters of 15 Jakla is in Avantipur, Jammu Kashmir. And sir, it has the motto of the unit is Balidanam Veer Lakshanam, and the war cry is Bharat Mata Ki Jai. And sir, the
Okay.
one,
How many mortar platoons are there in 15 Jack Life?
sir, I am not aware of it, sir.
How many rifle companies are there in 15 Jack Life?
Sir, four rifle companies, sir.
4.
Yes, sir.
How many people are there in one rifle company?
Sir, that I know, I don't know, sir.
Okay. All right. Let's say, God forbid, tomorrow you are declared permanently medically unfit for army. Then what you will do?
Sir, sir, if that happens to me, sir, I will become, sir, boxing coach, sir.
Boxing coach.
Yes, sir.
Boxing coaches don't have a future in India, do they?
Yes, sir, they do, sir.
Okay, tell me any 5 latest acquisitions of Indian Army.
Sir, the first is, sir, we have signed a deal with France with of 114 Rafale jets. Sir, apart from that, sir, we are also planning of buying Rafale Navy Rafale jets for our Indian Navy. Sir, I'm aware that much only, sir.
Army is going to use this Rafale and Navy Rafale.
No, sir, Air Force.
So what did I ask you?
Of Army, sir. Sir, AK-203 has been bought from Russia and it will be manufactured in Russia, in India, in UP.
What is this AK?
Sir, an assault rifle, sir.
What does AK stand for?
Sir, a class Nikonov, sir.
All right, Kanishk, that will be all for today.
Now, guys, I'm sure if you've seen this whole clip, there are a lot of things which you can learn from this small 3-minute clip. First thing, when he was asked about why he wants to join, he wants to join because his cousin was a captain in 15 Jack Lie and he was martyred. Okay, all right. Now think about it. You are making a decision about your entire life. Okay, you want to join one particular organization because your cousin was associated with it and he got martyred in the line of duty. Have you really taken interest in that organization? He was not knowing anything about 15 Jackline. He was not knowing anything about the day-to-day activities which happen in an infantry unit. And if he could have given some information about something unique that happens in 15 Jackline, it would have really helped the IO understand that this boy really wanted to join army. He always used to talk to his cousin, inquiring about, how life is inside army, what are the kind of things they do. That interest he was not able to see. Bigger disaster, he spoke about adventurous life. Now guys, talk to your friends who are serving in army and ask them how much adventure is there, and they will just shrug their head. Okay, I'm not saying there is no adventure, but trust me, the way it is advertised on television and the way this whole image is created about adventure in army, trust me, there is less of adventure, very little adventure in fact, and a lot of back-breaking hard work. So if you're going to go in thinking that I'm going to have a lot of adventure, they know you will be bitterly disappointed, because there'll be lot of back-breaking work. Okay, there'll be very little or no adventure. There'll be a lot of back-breaking work. So another red alert the candidate is giving to the IO, that please don't recommend me. If you recommend me and if I get commissioned, I'll be a liability for the unit, because I will immediately get frustrated and I will be disappointed. Okay. Third thing is, he really is not knowing, he's not keeping a track of army. I asked him, 5 acquisitions, and he's talking about Navy, Rafale. And so, I had to ask him, is army going to use it? Now, guys, please don't think I'm a very rude person or that is how I take interviews. But when I take interviews, my intention is I should prepare you for the worst possible scenario. Okay, all right. So if I just take a very sweet, simple, courteous kind of interview, and tomorrow when you actually go for interview and you end up having a very smart, shrewd kind of an IO who is really crisp, he talks up to the point and he doesn't like any nonsense, he's very unforgiving, then you will be in deep trouble. So my intention is to prepare you for the worst kind of scenario, and you should excel in that worst scenario as well. That is how my students have always excelled in the past. Okay. So please don't think that I am a very rude person, that I take interview in such a rude and curt manner. No, that is not the case. Okay. So the candidate in this 3 minutes has given enough material to the IO to say that no, you are not going to get recommended. Okay. All right. If you think about it, AK-203, he was not even knowing what does AK stand for. Automat Kalashnikov. Kalashnikov was the name of the USSR major who designed AK-47. So you should be knowing all these things. Whatever word you are going to utter from your mouth, be ready to answer counter questions related to it. Now, I will show you another clip of a candidate. This will be a slightly longer clip, guys. Okay, please watch it. It's a 9-minute clip in which the candidate is answering, what do you know about Navy other than ranks and commands? Okay, I had taken 2 sessions, in fact, during that batch. Each session was of around 2 hours covering Navy. And the candidate was really well prepared. She had really, learned everything by heart, and she was answering, and she spoke for nearly 9 minutes. Now you can see when candidates are not well prepared, they're not able to speak even for 1 minute. And here she was able to speak for 9 minutes. So I'll just show you that video. Probably after 3-4 minutes, I will stop, just to give you an idea regarding how impressive you come across as a candidate if you go very well prepared to handle these kind of questions. Okay, so this is a very bright young girl named Kishika. Amazing memory she has got, and very hardworking, very smart kind of a child. I'm working with her still, and God willing, in the near future, she's going to get recommended. So let's watch this clip. It will really help you understand, how impressive you come across as a candidate if you are well prepared. Okay.
You got fascinated with Navy, you ended up going for Naval SSB.
No, sir, absolutely not. As I've mentioned, my interest developed quite later on when I actually made an informed decision, tried to educate myself about the to and fro's of the organization, and
Okay,
then only.
in that case, tell me what you know about Navy.
Sure, sir. Um, Sir, I'd like to start off by the vast fleet that governs our Navy. So we have 2 aircraft vessels, namely INS Vikramaditya and INS Vikrant. We have a strong fleet of destroyers. We have frigates, corvettes, and amphibious vessels, and a lot of other submarines as well. I would like to start off with the difference between destroyers, frigates, and corvettes. Destroyers are the motherships in any flotilla or fleet that goes on, and it weighs about from around 8,000 tons to 6,000 tons. And if we talk about frigates, they are comparatively smaller. They support the main ship, mainly the destroyer, and they displace around 5,000 to 6,000 tons. And by displacement, I mean the amount of water that they move away when they are placed inside the water. It is based upon the Archimedes principle. And when I talk about frigates, they are even smaller. And this progression displays that we have used them for different purposes. Let's say destroyer, they're used for long ranges. Frigates, they're used for medium range missions, and frigates are used for quick combat on the coastal areas and dropping personnel at islands and things like that. Now, I would like to emphasize more on destroyers. I'd like to talk about INS Delhi. It is one of our main destroyers, and it is a guided missile destroyer. And if I talk about the armament that we have SAN 7 Gatfly shuttle missiles. They are Russian based and they're surface to air missiles, and they are a major part of our armament in INS Delhi. And if I talk about Gunfly. And if I talk about the radars that we have, then we have the Frigate M2EM radar. This is something I emphasize a lot while studying because in the previous attempt I fell short here. So the Frigate M2M surveillance radar is a 3D surface and air radar system, wherein it is used to track and surveil any surface or air targets. Now after that we have the M90 OREC. So what happens is M90 OREC and Frigate M2M work in cohesion together. The Frigate M2EM looks out and surveils for long range targets, and then those targets are transferred to the M90 OREC. Now, M90 OREC, being a fire control radar, coordinates with our armament, particularly the Shield missile, and uses semi active radar homing to target and work upon these suspected targets. Now, when I talk about semi-active radar homing, that means that our launch pad sends signals using sonar, using sound navigation and ranging, and these signals, when reflected back, are used by the missile, namely the shield missile in this case, and that is how it targets the area and launches there. Now, the few disadvantages for this approach is that the launch pad has to be stable, meaning that we cannot move our ship at all, and this can make us prone to countermeasures by the enemy and even harm us because they can track the trajectory of that missile and counter and dispatch their own countermeasures. So to overcome that, we also have other radar homings like the passive radar homing and the active radar homing. Now these come with their own pros and cons. Active radar homing is a method in which the missile itself has its own transmitter and receiver, meaning that it is a fire and forget radar missile. By that I mean that we can fire a particular missile and then we can move our ship away, and the missile is going to hit the target on its own. The only downside is that let's say we have a frigate.
All right. Now, guys, it's a 9-minute clip I have, but I'm sure it will take too much time. Kishika spoke beautifully about Navy, although the information that she ended up giving was related to the equipment. I would always advise candidates to carry more information about what happens on a day-to-day basis in Army, Air Force, or Navy, but still she was able to talk about things which candidates generally don't even know about. And don't worry, I'll help you learn all of that here in the upcoming live sessions. So stay disciplined in your learning. Okay. So this is the impression you will be able to generate if you are well informed. You will come across as a person who is genuinely interested in the organization. On top of it, if you can talk about the challenges inside the organization, combine the two things. You know about the organization in and out, and you know life is tough inside, and you still want to join. You are the best candidate possible in front of any interviewing officer, in front of any board. So that's how you should be. Okay. Now, when candidates come to me who are preparing for Army, we'll first start with Army. And to be very honest, most of my students are from Army or are those who are preparing for Army. Okay. So if you are preparing for Army, I generally advise candidates to study artillery a lot. Okay. Why artillery, and why I don't personally prioritize infantry or any other arm? Because artillery is one arm which gives you ample space. It's a vast kind of science. It's a proper science. It's a field of science. Okay. It's vast. There is a lot to study, and there is a lot you can bring to the table if you study artillery nicely and you prepare nicely. Okay. Infantry gives you limited scope of discussion. Armored gives you limited scope of discussion. And I'm sure even other arms have somewhat limited scope of discussion. But artillery gives you ample opportunity to talk a lot. Plus, It gives you the opportunity to showcase your ability to learn, that you can absorb difficult complex concepts, scientific concepts, and you can explain it to a layman in a very easy to understand language, okay, the way I will explain it to you today. Okay, so it gives you ample opportunity to showcase your positivity and to shine in the interview. So in my opinion, or if you ask me, my suggestion will be, prepare for artillery very nicely. I'll help you understand about other arms as well in the subsequent sessions. If you are preparing for SSC Tech, you are in for a treat. I'll be taking detailed sessions on the work of engineers in our army. Those sessions will be absolute eye-openers for you, and you will love those sessions. And every session that I'm going to take, if you really want to clear your SSB, you are going to love these sessions. Okay, so today we'll start with our today's learning. Okay, let's start our study of artillery. In this session, I'll give you first a very brief overview of artillery, and then we will dive deep into one of the aspects of artillery, only one. Today we'll not go deep into it. In the subsequent sessions, we will go deep into it, and you will understand each and everything there is to understand about artillery. The IO will be highly impressed if you prepare all this very well. Whatever I'm going to teach you, if you prepare well, trust me, the IO will be impressed. Okay. Now, what kind of units are there in Indian Army's artillery? First is you have the light regiment. Okay, you might have heard light regiment. What is a light regiment? Light regiment is the one which is equipped with 120 mortar. Okay, we'll study all of these in detail in the subsequent sessions. Today we are just taking a brief overview. Light regiment is the one which is equipped with 120 mortar. How many pieces of mortar are there in a light regiment? 18. In any artillery regiment, the number of pieces of artillery is 18, standard. There are 3 batteries, Papa, Cubic, Romeo, and in each battery there are 6 pieces. Okay, so in light regiment, in one battery there will be 6 mortar pieces. Okay, all right. There'll be 3 batteries, and then Charlie is the headquarter. So you have Papa, Cubic, Romeo, and then Charlie. So light regiment is that. Then you have something called the field regiment. Now, what is the field regiment? Field regiment is the regiment which is equipped with the 105 Indian field gun or light field gun. Okay, so that is field regiment. Field regiment doesn't mean a regiment which is serving in a field area. That's the most common, misunderstanding about this. Field regiment is a regiment which is equipped with 105 Indian field gun or light field gun. How many guns in one unit? 18 guns. Okay. Then medium regiment. What is a medium regiment? In artillery, in Indian Army, medium regiment is a regiment in which there are guns above 120 caliber and up to 160 caliber. Right now, we don't have any gun which is above 155 caliber, but then 120 and above is counted in medium regiment. So which guns you have in medium regiment? You have the most famous Bofors, 155 39 caliber. Then you have D30, which is 122 Then you have M46, which is 130 In fact, maximum of our units are equipped with the M46 gun, okay, 130 M46. Then you have the K9 Vajra, recently inducted. It's a 155 gun. Then you have Sharang, which is again 155 caliber. Then you have Soltam, which is again 155 caliber. Then you have the M777, which we have recently acquired from the United States. Then we have Dhanush. Then we have, these are all the guns which are of around of 155 caliber, not around, it is 155 So what is caliber? We'll just see in a while. Okay, what is this 155 In case you are a civilian who does not know, I'll help you understand that. So medium regiment is one which is equipped with guns above 120 caliber. Then you have rocket regiments, which are equipped with rockets. So there are 3 main rockets that we have: BM-21 Grad, which we have acquired from Russia. Then we have Smerch, and then we have Pinaka. So again, you must have seen on television the trucks which have these launchers, these tubes, at the back. Each of those trucks is called a launcher, and 18 launchers are there in each unit. So that is rocket regiment. Then you have missile regiment. Our missiles like Agni and Prithvi. They are operated by missile regiments. And then you have SATA, surveillance and target acquisition. These are the people who use drones like Searcher and Heron in order to carry out surveillance or locating enemy guns. In fact, they even use radars like Swati, which is a weapon locating radar. So that is SATA. So these are the type of regiments which are there under Indian Army's artillery. Now, if you will tell them that you want to join artillery, then they will definitely ask you some questions about artillery to see your level of knowledge, your level of interest, and your level of motivation. Okay, so what are some of the most common questions they ask you? What is a howitzer? What is a gun? Now, what is the difference between a howitzer and a gun? I'm sure you must have heard this howitzer. What is a howitzer? A howitzer is a piece of artillery which generally can fire at higher angles. For instance, M777, its elevation is of up to 71.7 degrees. So with respect to the ground level, the barrel can have an elevation of 71.7 degrees. So if you are targeting enemies, especially in mountain areas, this becomes a very useful weapon. What is a gun? A gun, on the other hand, generally cannot. Generally, I'm saying exceptions can be there, but generally the maximum elevation the barrel can have is of around 45 degrees. So it has a more flatter trajectory. When it fires a shell, the shell has a more flatter trajectory. That is the main difference between a howitzer and a gun. Then what is caliber? Caliber refers to, in any weapon, caliber refers to the diameter of the bore of the barrel. The barrel has a bore in it, from which the shell can go out. So the diameter of the barrel of the gun is called caliber. But then this is where they will catch you. If you are a person who is really interested in artillery, and if you have really studied artillery a lot, they will know, and they would like to see whether you know or not, that in artillery there are two types of calibers. This is where they can see whether you are an average candidate just like everyone else, or whether you are a standout from the crowd. These kind of questions give you an opportunity to show that you are not like everyone else, that you are a standout from the crowd. So for instance, they may ask you, so okay, fine, so the diameter of the bore is the caliber. That means Bofort's gun is of 155 caliber. But then while writing, why do we write 155 39 caliber? So what is this 39 caliber? Now guys, in artillery, this 39 caliber refers to the length of the barrel. If we say that XYZ gun is 155 39 caliber, what it means is the length of the barrel is 39 times 155 or whatever is the diameter of the bore of the barrel. Okay, so Bofors is a 39 caliber gun. In today's world, artillery across the world has three standard calibers: 39, 45, and 52. Okay, so Bofors is a 39 caliber gun. So then you have to explain it to him. Okay, so 155 into 39, if I'm not wrong, is 6045. So 6045 is the length of the barrel, and in artillery, the longer the barrel, the longer the range. Okay, then what is the motto of artillery? Sarvatra Izzato Iqbal. I will request you to study what are the symbols on the belt or on the uniforms of people who are serving in artillery, especially officers. Do that. That's a homework for you. Now let's study, what is the main topic for today. Today, we will understand the working mechanism of an artillery gun, how the artillery shell gets fired from the gun. Very, very important if you're going to talk about this arm. And if you can get all this information ready for your interview, and if you discuss this during your interview, trust me, there is no way that you will not get recommended. Of course, your overall performance matters, your psychology performance, the rest of the interview, then your GTO, everything matters. But then this will of course help you raise the level of performance in your personal interview. Okay, so for this purpose, we will study what is called a charge in artillery, what is called a primer, and what is the linear pulling mechanism, and what is a chamber. Now let's first understand what is a charge. Very important in artillery. Now guys, a shell, an artillery shell, it cannot fly by itself. It cannot automatically start heading towards the target. something needs to happen which will push it towards the target, so that it can leave the gun, the barrel of the gun, and start, flying towards the target. Now, in this particular image, you will be able to see that it's a Paladin howitzer, self-propelled howitzer of the US Army. You can see I've highlighted in that orange circle, it's a shell which the soldier is loading in the gun. Okay, all right. In the next image, you are able to see there is something which resembles like a white metallic roll next to the soldier. Okay, what is it? We'll understand in a while. Now look at this next image. This is of the M777 ultralight howitzer. The American soldiers are operating it in Afghanistan. Actual images. Now you can see the yellow arrow is pointing towards a soldier who is bringing a shell which is to be loaded in the gun. Look at the yellow arrow, okay, and there is an orange oval shape there. A soldier is bringing a shell which is to be loaded in the gun. And here now you will see the arrow is pointing towards a soldier who is holding something that looks like metallic rolls stacked one upon the other. What are these metallic rolls? Now again, in this image, you will be able to see the same thing, M777 gun in action, and those metallic rolls, soldiers are holding. Now here again, you will be able to see the shells of the M777 ultralight howitzer. You can see a soldier standing with that rod, which is called a ram, used to push the shell inside the barrel. And here in this particular image, you will be able to see again that the soldier is loading the gun with the shell. The yellow arrow is pointing towards that. In this image, the yellow arrow is pointing towards that metallic kind of a roll which the soldier is holding. This is what is called a charge. The shell cannot leave the barrel of the gun by itself and start flying towards the target. It needs pressure to be generated inside the barrel so that that pressure will throw that shell out of the gun, and the shell will then start traveling towards the target. This is where bimodular charge or charge comes in. What you're able to see on your screen right now, it looks like a metallic roll. It is actually what is called a bimodular charge. Nowadays, everyone uses bimodular charge. Earlier, people used to use, in fact, artilleries across the world used to use bagged charges, which you can see on your screen right now. Okay. Charges are nothing but propellant units which, upon ignition, generate huge pressure by releasing gases. Okay, so charge, it has chemicals like nitrocellulose and nitroglycerine, which do not detonate like explosives. They burn, they deflagrate. They're not explosives like RDX and TNT. They burn, they deflagrate, and generate huge pressure inside the chamber of the gun. And due to that pressure, the shell gets fired from the gun. Now here you can see this is the round of a 120 mortar. If you see the tail area, there is nothing there. Okay. Now in this next image, you will be able to see that in the same 120 mortar's round, in the tail area, you are able to see white rings of some substance. Again, this is a charge, So when they put this round inside the mortar, it is muzzle loaded, not breech loaded. Artillery guns are breech loaded. Muzzle means you load it from the mouth of the mortar. Okay, so this charge ignites inside. It generates huge pressure because of the gases it releases, and then due to this, the round is expelled from the mortar. Okay, in simple terms, a charge in artillery is the gunpowder, that is the pre-packed propellant unit that pushes the shell out of the barrel by generating high pressure gases upon ignition. So that is what a charge is. Types of charges: bagged charges. I've already shown it to you earlier. Cloth bags filled with propellant added or removed to adjust range. You want a longer range, you add more number of bags. Okay, so that more propellant is there, more gases are generated, and then with greater force, the shell is expelled and it travels longer distance. This is a bagged charge. Then modular charges, bimodular charges, BMCS, modern blocks of propellant that can be stacked for different ranges. It can be stacked one behind the other depending on what kind of range you want to achieve. You want a higher range, you will use more number of modular charges. then this is what it looks like. And third, you have the cartridge charges, which are very rarely used these days. They were mostly used in First World War. This is what a cartridge charge looks like, more like a plastic cartridge. And in this image, you can see from First World War that there is a shell placed, and behind it, there is that cartridge. So that is the cartridge charge. Okay. Now that is what a charge is. So which chemical causes the generation of high pressure gases? You should be having very good information about all these things, guys. My students who have followed this methodology of preparing for interview, really their performance has been something else altogether. You can also do that. Nitrocellulose, you should have specific information. Okay, nitrocellulose, this is the main ingredient, a highly flammable compound derived from cellulose, that is cotton or wooden pulp, treated with nitric acid. It burns very rapidly, releasing large volumes of hot gases. That gas pressure is what pushes the artillery shell out of the barrel. Then the second chemical you can use is nitroglycerin, often added to increase energy output. And the propellant, the charge which uses both nitrocellulose and nitroglycerin, it is called a double base propellant. Okay, it is supposed to be a better thing compared to a single base propellant. Then apart from nitroglycerin, the third element which you can add is nitroguanidine. A very important role this particular chemical plays is it is used in triple base propellants. So if you have a modular charge which has nitrocellulose, which has nitroglycerin as well as nitroguanidine, then it is called a triple base propellant charge. It is supposed to be the best thing possible in terms of charge. Why? Because it lowers flame temperature. Now guys, if you have seen how artillery guns fire shells during the firing practice or in actual war, once the shell leaves the barrel, there is this huge ball of fire at the mouth of that barrel. Okay, that is called a flash, and that has high temperature, which is used by enemy through their heat sensing devices to track the location of your artillery guns, and then accordingly they can counter fire. So if you can lower the flame temperature, the possibility of getting detected by the enemy decreases. So it's a good thing. Okay, plus it reduces barrel wear. So even the wear and tear which happens in artillery guns due to again and again firing shells, even that reduces. It is useful in repeat intense firing. Extremely important point, these chemicals burn what is called deflagrate rapidly. They do not detonate like explosives in a shell. Very important point. Modular charges contain propellant mixtures like nitrocellulose and nitroglycerin, and do not contain explosives like TNT or RDX. They are designed to burn, not detonate, and their role is to launch the shell, not to cause the destructive effect. Now, what initiates the burning of these charges? That is $1 million question. And that is where the role of primer comes in. What initiates the burning of these charges is something called a primer. Now, this is one of the most commonly used primers, M191A2 primer. It looks like a 9mm bullet, but in reality, its dimensions are different. The length is around 50 mm. The weight diameter is around 15 mm, and the weight is around 36 grams. Okay, now it is a percussion type charge primer. Please understand this, it will really help you a lot. What is percussion? I'm sure you must be knowing. Percussion means striking or hitting something to make a reaction happen. Percussionist, a musician, there's a category of musician called percussionist who plays drums and all. Okay, so percussion. Now, percussion primer is a primer that ignites when it is struck by the firing pin. Okay, the chemicals which are used in this primer are, they ignite due to mechanical shock. Their natural property is to ignite due to mechanical shock, and the mechanism of this primer is literally the same the way it is in 9mm bullets. Okay, here you can see a 9mm bullet. You can see that it has a black powder inside, which is the explosive part. Then you have the casing, and then you have the primer. If you can see this metallic cup at the center of the base, that is called primer. It is generally filled with explosives which ignite due to mechanical shock. So the moment the pin hits this primer, it ignites, it starts releasing gases, and the bullet is expelled, and that's how the 9mm bullet, 9mm revolver works. Now, center fire primer, this is just to give you a better understanding of what the primer is and where it is. This is a 9mm bullet, by the way, but the mechanism is the same. The scientific principle is the same even in artillery guns. Now here you can see the used bullets, okay, how the pin of that revolver, which is there at the base of the hammer, once you pull the trigger, the hammer is released due to a spring loading function, and that hits this primer, and then this triggers a series of reactions due to which the bullet then leaves the pistol. Okay, chemicals which are sensitive to mechanical shock. So which are those chemicals? Lead stephanite plus tetrazine, most commonly used in artillery primers. Now, these are not the only chemicals, but these are the most commonly used chemicals. Apart from it, you will have oxidizer as well as fuel. Okay, so oxidizer is barium nitrate, generally provides oxygen to sustain combustion in the confined primer environment, ensures the fuel burns rapidly and completely. And what is the fuel made up of? Generally, a substance like antimony sulfide or a metallic powder like aluminium powder reacts with the oxidizer to release heat and flame, supplies the energy needed to ignite the propellant charge. So oxidizer, fuel, plus you have something like lead stephanite, which ignites due to mechanical shock. These three components is what involves the working mechanism of a primer. Now let us study the 7 steps involved in the firing of the artillery shell. Very, very simple. Pulling the lanyard. After the shell has been loaded and the charges are stacked behind the shell, and this primer is arranged in the breech. There is a recess in the breech generally for it. After everything is done, the gunner pulls the lanyard, the rope, which is called in normal language. The lanyard is connected to a mechanical firing mechanism inside the breech of the gun. When pulled, it releases a spring-loaded firing pin. Literally, pulling a lanyard is literally the same as pulling trigger of a 9mm pistol. When you pull the trigger, that spring loading mechanism comes into action, the hammer gets released, and it goes and hits the primer. It's the same thing at work here. Okay, firing pin strike. The firing pin snaps forward and hits the primer at the base of the shell cartridge. Inside the primer, there is a small amount of sensitive explosive mixture, oxidizer plus fuel plus initiator. The impact causes this mixture to ignite instantly. Flame and hot gases. The burning primer produces a jet of flame and hot gases that shoot into the propellant chamber. Then the main propellant, usually a large amount of gunpowder or modern smokeless powder, catches fire from the primer's flame. Rapid expansion. The burning propellant generates huge volumes of gas, building up pressure behind the shell. Then projectile launch. That pressure forces the shell out of the barrel at high speed. The gun has fired. This is how the firing mechanism works. Now let us study the NATO standard 155mm modular charges, zone 1 to zone 6. NATO categorizes its charges strength in zones, zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 6 being the most powerful, with their battlefield range and bands and approximate chamber pressure in megapascals. If you can learn all this and take it for your interview, my God, it will help you a lot. Okay, so zone 1, one modular charge of zone 1 will give you a range of around 4 to 7 kilometers. It will generate a pressure of around 150 to 180 megapascals inside the barrel of the gun, inside the chamber. It is generally used for short range fire mission, minimal propellant for close support. Then zone 2, it will give you is 8 to 12 kilometers. You'll have to stack the charges one after the other. Pressure it will generate is around 200 to 220 megapascal. Role will be of medium range engagements, balancing accuracy and reduced wear. Then zone 3, range 13 to 18 kilometers. You'll have to keep stacking the modular charges one after the other. Pressure 240 to 260 megapascals. Role, standard battlefield distances often used for sustained fire. Zone 4, 19 to 25 kilometers. 280 to 300 megapascals, extended fire range requiring higher chamber pressures. Zone 5, 26 to 32 kilometers, 320 to 340 megapascals, long range interdiction and counter battery fire. And zone 6, it can achieve 40 kilometers plus with ERFB, that is extended range full bore BB blaze bead projectiles. I'll help you understand all this in detail. I'll teach you everything in detail in the upcoming sessions. So just follow what I'm teaching and join me for the live sessions whenever I take them, and you will gain a lot. Pressure it generates is around 360 to 380 megapascals, and maximum reach of NATO standard 155 system strategic deep fire capability. Now, in order to have a complete understanding about the ignition and the firing capacity of the gun, we need to understand about chamber as well. Chamber is the part of the gun where you load the shell and then you stack all the charges. Okay, and chamber is designed keeping in mind what kind of range you want the gun to have. It is measured in liters. This is generally the part of the gun that is called a chamber. Chamber capacity refers to the internal volume behind the projectile where propellant charges are loaded. Larger chamber means more propellant capacity, means higher pressure, and muzzle velocity means longer range. So bigger chamber generally means you want the gun to have a longer range. Smaller chamber means less propellant, means lower velocity, means shorter range. Okay. Now, NATO standardized 155 caliber, but chamber volumes differ across gun designs to balance mobility, barrel wear, and design range. Now, let's study few of our guns to understand what is their chamber volume. The famous Bofors gun, the chamber capacity of our Bofors gun is around 18 liters, and maximum range it can get is of around 24 to 27 kilometers. Always use the word around or approximate before the number. Okay, don't ever directly quote the number. Designed for mobility and rapid fire, optimized for medium range engagements. Then Dhanush has got a chamber of around 23 liters, and the maximum range it can get is of around 38 kilometers with extended range full bore shell. Then ATAX has a chamber capacity, it is set, of around 25 liters. Maximum range it can get is around 48 kilometers with extended range full bore base bleed shell. M777 chamber capacity is around 18 liters, maximum range 24 kilometers with standard shells, 30 kilometer with rocket assisted projectiles. So this is how it is. 18-liter chamber will give you around 24 to 27 kilometers range. 23 liters will give you around 38 to 40 kilometers. 25-liter chamber generally 48-kilometer range. So strategic implications. Nations design chamber capacities based on operational doctrine. Lightweight guns like M777 have smaller chambers because they need mobility. The gun is designed for mobility purpose. Heavy towed or self-propelled guns like ATACs, larger chambers for maximum range and firepower. Chamber size is a critical design choice, balancing logistics, barrel life, and tactical needs. So in conclusion, bigger chamber is equal to longer reach. For example, we already saw ATACs with a 25-liter chamber achieves 48 kilometers, while M777 with an 18-liter chamber achieves around 24 to 27 kilometers. So that is about chamber. Now, why doesn't the shell explode inside the barrel when the charge is ignited and when there is fire and when there is such huge amount of gas being generated? Very interesting question. And that is what we will study in the next session of our personal interview. Okay, it is very interesting science. Trust me, you will love it if you're interested in Army in a serious manner and you really want to don the uniform. Now, if you liked this video and found it really useful, I'm sure you must have. Please like it. Please share it with all your friends who are preparing for SSB. Share it in all the groups you are a part of, which are related to SSB. Encourage everyone you know who is preparing for SSB to subscribe to our channel. And please don't forget to watch the videos of our Psychology Foundation course, which we have uploaded on our YouTube channel. You can just go to the playlist Psychology Foundation course and you will find all the videos there. Those are very detailed videos and they will really elevate your understanding about the psychology tests. Make sure you watch them. We'll be conducting a live session tomorrow on word association test. Please join me for that, and encourage all your friends also to join that session. It will be a small session of around 20-25 minutes, but trust me, you will learn a lot. So that brings us to the end of today's session. good night, and please take very good care of yourself. I'll see you tomorrow, 9 p.m. in the live session on VAT. Take care. Bye-bye.